Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, right here on 88.3 FM, WXOU, Auburn Hills, Michigan, Oakland University, and all your wonderful station identification features. I'm your host of the GioMoShow, Giovanni Mosheri, and the GioMoShow is your home for all Oakland sports and beyond on 88.3 FM. Don't forget to follow WXOU on our MAB award-winning social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can join our WXOU Discord server to get to know everybody at the station and stay connected with all your favorite hosts and activities. And you can also find us, all of our information, all of our articles, our show times, our game recaps in regards to sports can all be found on WXOU.org. So be sure to give that website a visit and go find one of my articles. I got a couple of them around the website. I'm on social media as well. If you're watching with me right now on YouTube, get involved in the chat. I'll be looking through. I'll be seeing what you guys are thinking. And if you're also watching on YouTube, you can see where you can find me on social media. But for those of you live on WXOU.org or the TuneIn app or 88.3, then I'll spell some of it out for you. The GioMoShow's Instagram is simply the GioMo Show, and you can find me on Twitter at GioMosheri, WXOU. And if you're missing it right now, you're not with me live, I'm so sorry to hear that. But if that does happen to be the case, then all the GioMoShow episodes are uploaded in due time on YouTube and Spotify, so there's no way to miss the GioMoShow. And obviously, we got a bit of an elephant in the room here when it comes to this day in sports history and what's been going on in terms of the Detroit Lions and the NFC Championship game. There's a lot to cover here. There's a lot to talk about. So we're going to start the show with that. But to give you guys a full rundown, heads up what we're doing here. So we're going to start with the NFL. Championship weekend has completed, and we have the Super Bowl matchup, which I believe to be the worst-case scenario, and I don't believe I'm alone in that. But we have the Super Bowl matchup established after these championship games. I'm going to give my thoughts on those. And then we're going to get into the Golden Grizzlies. We got some basketball going on, and even a swim meet that's happening this past week. But we just watched it last night. We all watched it last night. And that's why I wanted to make the show Mondays at noon, so I can get right to it and talk about it hot off the press. So, and obviously it's been on my mind ever since. So that's going to be our show starter for today. So let's take a breather here. Take a deep breath, everybody, in and out, and let's talk about this game. This one was obviously important. This one is obviously something that we haven't done in a very long time. It's a historic game, and all the graphics and all the storylines were centered around the fact that this doesn't happen very often in Detroit, and that this season for the Detroit Lions is one of history and is one of breaking new ground. So the stakes were noticeably high in this game for Detroit Lions fans, both competitively in the league to get to the Super Bowl, but also historically and emotionally for some fans. And to remind everyone of my take, and I'm going to stay consistent with this not because I don't want to change my mind, but because it's truly what I believe, that coming into this game after we beat the Bucs, it was extra credit at this point. I believe this game to be, beyond our expectations, which it was. I don't believe anybody was expecting us to go to the NFC Championship game until, we got later on in the season and it became more realistic. So I don't, that wasn't my expectation. And so the expectation was to win a division and win a playoff game, to at least get those monkeys off the backs of our Lions. We did those. And, after the wild card game, it's like, the matchup between either the Eagles or Tampa Bay is winnable. Maybe we could get to the NFC Championship game. And then we did. And then it's like, well, okay, now we're, I was of the house money variety of fans that this was purely extra credit, and this is purely like to just go over the top with this. So those were my feelings coming into the game, especially when it's against the 49ers. Let's be respectful and let's be realistic. The 49ers are a fantastic team. Number 1 seed for a reason. And one of the, built the strongest, the best roster. You can always argue them and the Ravens throughout the year. They're one of the top teams. And that was our matchup in the NFC Championship game. So, going into it, it can go either way. I made my opinion that this was my preferred matchup over the Packers because all the pressure was on San Francisco. Going back to our extra credit philosophy, it's on them, and we're just collecting extra. It's kind of how the game ended up being. So let's get into it a little bit. Right after the game, and the final score was 34-31. We already know it. 49ers win. I said after the game, I tweeted this, and I said, the Lions' weaknesses came back to haunt us. Our pass defense and our third quarter droughts. And we created some new weaknesses of our own when we kept dropping passes, key passes. But I am okay with the fourth down instead of tying the game with a field goal. Be who you are, MCDC. We're going to break down the game according to that tweet, according to my tweet. But let's kind of build the story a bit. So we started off so strong in this game. It was remarkable how quickly and dominantly we were able to get the score up against San Francisco in their house. The running game was just unstoppable. It was our identity. We're gonna smash you in the middle with Montgomery, and then a little bit with Gibbs, and we'll shake it up by bringing it outside with Gibbs as well. All of it was working to perfection. You had a Jamison Williams rushing touchdown, 42 yards, breaking tackles like that. That was within the first few minutes of the game. The drive was just 4 minutes. And boom, we're on the board, 7-zip. And then the next drive, the 49ers, they go down, but we stop them to force them to kick a field goal. Their rookie kicker, Jake Moody, alumni of Michigan, noted Lions fan, misses the first field goal. We got a double agent here. 7-zip still. Next drive, David Montgomery touchdown. Drive after that, or maybe a little bit after that, Gibbs gets a touchdown. And we're up 27-0. Or excuse me, that's not true. But we're up by 3 possessions at this point, basically. We even got an interception. Malcolm Rodriguez got an interception. A good one, too. It wasn't like it bobbled and just landed in his hands. He caught that thing. That experience, him playing fullback some of this year, caught a couple passes. Like, the dude's got hands. So, I mean, we're up big. We're up by 17 by the time halftime comes around. We're up by 17. But we had a looming fear. We as in me and me along with the rest of those in my house. We hosted watching the game. We all had this feeling of like, this is fantastic. This is good. There's nothing wrong with a multi-possession lead. But you know how third quarters go. We'll break it down. We'll break it down here right now. So, going back to my philosophy on the game, it was our weaknesses of the pass defense, and it was our weakness in the third quarter that cost us this game. Let's dive into the third quarter, shall we? So, in the third quarter, we're up big. We're up 24-3. San Francisco, they start off, it was 24-7. We were up by 17. So San Francisco, they start off the second half by kicking a field goal. They make it. Score is now 24-10. Then our following drive, we make it all the way down to the Niners' 26-yard line. And, it's definitely within a field goal, but we're the Detroit Lions. We're Dan Campbell's team. We're going to go for it. On 4th and 2, dropped pass. The play would have worked. It was the right call, and it was just dropped. It was devastating. We don't see drops from the Lions like that. We got sure-handed receivers. We catch those things. We've seen Josh Reynolds catch many of those passes, especially in clutch moments like that on fourth down. We've seen him do that. But he drops this one. This would be a theme. More on that later. So then the following drive, the Niners, they get up to their own 45. They're at about midfield. 1st and 10. Heaves the ball downfield. It's Ayuk versus Vildor. No hesitation. He went right at Vildor. And down the field at the 13-yard line, I'm looking at a screenshot of it right now. Overthrown into the, not hands, but face mask of Vildor. And it doesn't just bounce wildly because it's a football and it's an odd shape. No, it bounces perfectly off of his face to be going forward with the same momentum as Ayuk had running forward at the perfect height. He catches it and goes down at the goal line. How does that happen? It was literally a better option to disappear than to have it bounce off of your face and to give the 49ers another touchdown. I'm looking at this screenshot. I just tweeted it so you could go look at me on Twitter to see what I'm talking about. But, dude, it's in his hands. All he has to do is squeeze or touch it or do anything with it. All he needed to do in that play, I'm not asking him to catch this one because I understand that he's not the best corner in the league, and I understand that he's running full speed, falling backwards. It's a tough position. So I'm not asking for a catch. I'm asking for you to do literally anything besides what you did. Literally anything else besides have it bounce off of your face. It's got to be the most embarrassing way for that play to end. It's like if it bounced on his chest, it would not have. I don't think it would have bounced as high. I don't think the trajectory would have been perfect like it was. But to hit you in the face is the most embarrassing thing you can have as a pass catcher, whether offense or defense. It couldn't be closer to your eyes and therefore your hands. And it still goes through, bounces up, Ayuk catches it, they score another touchdown. The score is now 24-17. The Niners got it within a touchdown because of that freak play. Literally do anything else besides have it bounce off your face. This is all in the third quarter, by the way. All that I have described is just in the third quarter. So then after that, we have the ball and we fumble it. Coming off of that play, the game's within 7. It's not even like, oh, they stopped us. It was a fumbled handoff exchange. Another thing that never happens. We don't drop passes on fourth down when they're within reach. We don't have balls bounce off our face into the receiver's hands for basically a touchdown. And we don't fumble the ball in an exchange like that. I think we did it once this year, but this stuff doesn't happen. And it all happened in the 49ers. It all happened in California. Immediately, the 49ers go and get a touchdown and tie the game. This all happened 12 minutes after halftime. All this happened in 12 minutes. And for the rest of that third quarter, Lions had a drive. They went down the field at about midfield. We have the ball. It's third and long. Guess who's open? Mr. Reynolds. I believe the video just cut out. There we go. We're back on the live stream. He's open. And he's got an opportunity. This one was even cleaner than the fourth down. And he drops that one too. I can't believe how the third quarter unraveled. Because we knew that the third quarter was going to be bad. But to be shut out and had 17 put on you in 12 minutes, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. But in those 12 minutes, everything's gone. All the progress you made, all the momentum you had, gone in 12 minutes. Everything is just gone. So that's the third quarter. What else did I say was an issue with this game? It was our pass defense. So let's break it down. So it was just a simple matter. I don't have like a play-by-play like I do of the third quarter, but it was a simple matter of just poor coverage. Listen, we got good safeties. Garner Johnson, Branch, Joseph, Melifonwu. Like, we got a good roster at the safety position. But they don't play corner. And we don't have anybody on the roster, sadly, that could do a better job than the job that was done in this game. We don't have the cornerback room to play in big games like this. It's simply not ready. It's simply not there yet. But there were certain times where, and yes, the 49ers are a big, bulky, tough team, tough to tackle. CMC, Debo, Juszczyk, Kittle, all notoriously hard to tackle. But dude, there were times where like, can you even like get his shoelaces? Screen passes to Debo. Players are bouncing off of him. He catches the ball and he's standing still. And you still bounce off him. You can't even grab his leg. Vildor was even able to do that on one play where he didn't knock him down. He grabbed his leg, was being dragged like a toddler with his father. But at least he held on. It's just, I don't understand. I guess I don't understand because I'm not on the field, but you gotta gain tackle, wrap up and slow him down and wait for the rest of the game to get there. At least stick to the ball carrier, cling on to the ball carrier. But we're just bouncing off. Sometimes we're just throwing shoulders and I can't stand that form of tackling. So maybe this is also sort of a pass defense / tackling subject, but some players were wide open. And somehow Kyle Juszczyk gets a 23-yard pass in the open field because the pressure couldn't get home. Juszczyk is catching a 23-yard over the head, over the middle, huge pass. We can't cover the fullback? It's incredible. And then, obviously, we already talked about it. We need a name for this, by the way. I want a name for the play of the ball bouncing off of his face. Perhaps a face mask miracle. Let's make another miracle play out of it. There's got to be a good name for it. I'm reaching out to all of you to help me out. Come up with a good name for that play because it's so spectacular and it's so insane. There's got to be a name for it. And I hope it doesn't have the word miracle on it. I would call it dumb luck over a miracle. It's just unbelievable. I can't believe how that play went. But also included in the pass defense segment of our struggles. It's just Sutton and Vildor are not enough. It's not enough to have those guys be your number 1 and number 2 corner. Cam Sutton is missing tackles. He's getting juked out of his shoes, and he's too slow. He's simply too slow. And whether it's the injury that he suffered towards the late end of the regular season, or it's just I don't know what it is. So I'm not claiming to know the solution, but I'm on radio, so I could definitely tell you what the problem is. But he's too slow. He doesn't stay close to the receiver, and he misses tackles often. So it's not built. The roster is not there. I don't think Aaron Glenn could do any more with what he's got there. Especially when it comes to, we're sending secondary players into blitzing coverage or into pressure, because the front four can't do it consistently on their own. It's just the way the cornerback room is. The run defense did pretty decently well. We held Christian McCaffrey to under 100 yards, but he also had another 40 in the receiving game. I mean, we held CMC to under 100 rushing yards. That's what we do as the Lions defense. We at least can stop the run somewhat. So this game obviously had its frustrations, and the game was obviously not the way we wanted it to end. But I do want to talk about some of the decisions made. Let's get to the decisions part of this game, and then we'll get to the other parts of the show. We'll talk about the AFC Championship game. We'll talk about Golden Grizzlies sports in the second half. But about the decision making of the game, I had no problem with how the game was called. Now, play call, I mean, in terms of going for it, kicking it, and whatnot. Play calling, different thing. But I would say the decision to kick the field goal in the first half when we were on the goal line, I respect the decision because it's not listen, we know Campbell goes for it on fourth down, and we know that we don't quite use the kicker as often as we should. I didn't see that play. I didn't see that decision to kick as not trusting the team or not trusting the offense. Now, obviously, it's 1 yard. You could see it be that way. But I would say that it was simply a matter of let's go up by 3 possessions, and then we have another 30 minutes of football to play. We can make another decision when we need to. But right now, let's take some points. Let's get a bigger lead, and we'll see what happens. And I could imagine part of the risk was, okay, if we miss this, then we're definitely going to get blown out in the third quarter and the game's over. At least what that field goal did was have the game tied at the third, or tied going into the fourth quarter. At least that was the case. So I don't mind that decision to kick in the first half. Now in the fourth down, this gets back to that third quarter, that 4th and 2. You're on the 26-yard line of the Niners. It's just a drop pass. It wasn't the play call; it was the execution of it. I don't blame the coach for the execution of things. I blame that one's on the players. I believe that the coach, at least our coaching staff, will get the players ready to execute. I believe they know that they have to do that sometimes. I don't think that has to be coached to get them to execute. So that 4th down call, perfectly fine with it because it would have worked. It's what we do, It's what we do. And then when you get later into the game, it's our identity, man. To bring it more to let's get out of the specifics here. Let's bring it more to a general philosophy. The 4th down calls and the aggressiveness is what got you to the NFC Championship game. It is what won you the division. It is what got you back-to-back winning seasons. It is what got you your playoff wins. Don't back out of it now in the NFC Championship game. I absolutely respect that decision-making. And, yeah, sure. If you look at it by the results, yeah, we could have tied the game at 27. Yeah, we could have got ourselves in a better position. But listen, that's not how we got here. That's not who we are. And I would be more disappointed if we went for a kick, maybe even missed it, or even if we made it. I would be more disappointed in that Campbell went away from his identity as the 4th down madman, aggressive coach. I respect being consistent with who you are and not backing down because of some circumstances that look a little scary. Be who you are, MCDC, is what I tweeted at the end of the game last night. I respect being who you are. Because at least you could say, it's worked all season long. And at least you could say that you were not scared to do it. You manned up. You did what you thought was right. I mean, like, listen, I respect the decision. So that's we're going to leave it at that. Now, to get to some other random points in the game, I wrote down a bunch of stuff that I at least wanted to make some bulletin points of. So, for those watching, I filled the page here. So during, now we're going to kind of go scatterbrain throughout the rest of the game, and then we'll get to halftime and move on to the rest of the show. We'll talk about the AFC side of things, and we'll talk about the Golden Grizzlies. But when Rodriguez got it, or got the interception, let's say, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson is called on a blindside block on Debo. Hell, I respect that too. I thought that was hilarious. And yes, obviously you don't want to cost your team 15 yards, but honestly, you talk all that smack. You finally get to meet in the biggest stage that you can, given you're in the same conference. I want to see a little bit of a result of all the trash talk between Gardner-Johnson and Debo back in October. So for Gardner-Johnson to get admittedly a cheap shot on him, I thought that was kind of funny and incidental or just whatever, because we already got the return. It didn't overturn the play. I thought it was just kind of funny. So I'll give Gardner-Johnson that one. But some other points is, how did Brock Purdy rush for 50? Another thing in this game that has just never happened. Since when does he rush for 50? I think technically he had 48. But, I would I would look down and I would see Purdy running, and I genuinely thought it was Christian McCaffrey, because why would Purdy be running it? But he did. What was his long run? He had a 21-yard run in this game. 5 carries, 48 yards. Like, how does that happen? We have trouble with mobile quarterbacks. Justin Fields will get loose. Lamar Jackson would do his thing. Jalen Hurts, even last year, would do his mobile thing. Our defense has had trouble with mobile quarterbacks all season. But since when do we create mobile quarterbacks? When has that ever happened? So that bothered me a lot. And it's just, I didn't appreciate Kittle waving at the camera at the end of the game. That wasn't fun. Another point was Nick Bosa. He got a couple of sacks. And I did appreciate him not doing the shrug celebration just to kind of ease my pain. But it's just that game. Listen, let's zoom out here. We'll wrap it up. We'll land the plane here, and we'll go to break in a second. But we got a lot of time to talk about the offseason. We got a lot of time to talk about how the whole season went. We'll talk about that next week. And then we'll also obviously preview the Super Bowl. But this was a remarkable season. Just because the way it ended hurts and stings doesn't mean that this wasn't an amazing season. It doesn't mean we didn't have fun. It does not mean that we're never going to get this chance again. Sadly, some teams fall into that, but I would call you a liar if you think we will never get this shot again. With the defense that we carried into the NFC Championship game, you think if we improve that defense that we won't get back? I disagree. I think this was a remarkable season. I'm happy and content with the entirety of the season. Obviously, unhappy and upset about the specific game, but you got to zoom out and look at the entire season. This was an absolute success. An absolute win. The end. So, that is the first half of the GioMoShow. We talked about the Lions. We got it out of the way. When we come back from break, we'll talk about quickly the AFC Championship game, and then we'll get to the Golden Grizzlies of basketball and swim and dive. We'll be right back here on the GioMoShow, 88.3 FM, WXOU. Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow, 88.3 FM, WXOU. If you want more sports content from this station, then look no further than tomorrow at 4 p.m. The Blue Ski Mask Show, every Tuesday at 4, is your home for the ultimate experience of Detroit football and Detroit basketball. Oakland Post sports editor Brock Hillig and sports reporter Kirk Szymanski will take you on an exhilarating ride through the world of the Detroit Lions and the Detroit Pistons. Get ready for in-depth analysis, player spotlights, game reviews, and expert insights, all centered around the NFL and the NBA action in the Motor City. So if you want more talk and you want a more detailed and even more of a conversation about this game, Tuesday at 4 p.m. right here on WXOU is the place to be. And you can find it afterwards on the WXOU Sports' YouTube channel, as the Blue Ski Mask Show is uploaded there every week. The Blue Ski Mask Show, Tuesdays 4 to 5 on WXOU. So we talked about the Lions in the NFC Championship game, but what happened on the other side? What happened in the game prior, chronologically at least, between the Chiefs and the Ravens? I watched this one, and I was thoroughly disappointed with the result and with the way the game went. So I thought that the Ravens had a shot the entire game. I believed them to be the winner. They were the favorite. They were at home. They had the best roster. They had the best team, at least in the AFC. You can argue with the Niners, but most people would agree that the Ravens were the best team this year, throughout this year. With the MVP and Lamar Jackson, allegedly, or meaning we don't know for sure yet, but the Ravens are supposed to be the best team. And there were plenty of times where they looked that way. You saw Lamar Jackson on multiple occasions getting pressured in the pocket, literally flipping the defender over his head, escaping and making a big play. That literally happened twice. You literally saw him get a pass batted, him go and catch it for a 12-yard reception, technically you could call it. That's what Lamar Jackson did in the game. The O-line of the Ravens was big and powerful. The run game was strong. And they somehow only scored 10 points? What? How do you score 10 points against the Chiefs? Yes, their defense is good, but you're at home, man. You're supposed to punk them. And that didn't happen. But to boil down the game into the reason I believe the Ravens lose, because I didn't want the Chiefs to win. And yes, people were saying a lot that day that, the Chiefs are a better matchup for us in the Super Bowl. That wasn't a crazy thing to think because we were one game away. People said the Chiefs were a better matchup for us in the Super Bowl. I disagreed. I mean, I would go back and forth on it, but overall, I disagreed because you don't want to see Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. You don't want to see that experienced team in the Super Bowl. There's no way you're covering Kelsey. Yeah, you could stop the run, but you know some crazy stuff's going to be happening because of their experience. That's Mahomes' fourth Super Bowl. This is Mahomes' fourth Super Bowl. I don't want to see that as a very young, very inexperienced first-time team making it to the Super Bowl. I don't want to see that. I want to see the team that we played, got our butts whooped by. I want to see that team because then we have a lot of things to correct. We have a lot of things to look at, and luckily we have 2 weeks to do so. We have experience against how they play, at least a little more recent experience. We didn't play the Chiefs with their best players. We played the Ravens with all their players. So I would rather have seen the Ravens. So I wanted the Ravens to win. But what kept them from winning? Undisciplined, boneheaded mistakes. That's what I think cost them this game. You had multiple penalties, some on the same drive, that just killed their momentum. And here's the thing. Roughing the passer, what was it? It was roughing the passer, taunting, hands to the face, or whatever the penalty. I think those are some of the penalties that were called. Normally, they're soft. And normally, they don't, we get upset by them because we think they're fugazi. We think that they're stupid penalties that are soft and shouldn't be in the game. But all the penalties that were called on the Ravens were legit and textbook examples of what you should not do when you're at least on defense. You had Jadeveon Clowney leading with the crown of his helmet, hitting Mahomes in the face when he was trying to sack him. You haven't been able to do that in 10 years. And he's a veteran. He should know that. You had the player who punched Mahomes in the face trying to shed a block. I thought that was really funny looking. But you can't hit the passer on the head, even if it's soft. The rule is explicit, saying you can't hit his head. That's not a judgment call. They will call it every time. You should know not to do that. And maybe on that certain play where he was being blocked and he reached out his left hand to hit him in the face, maybe he just didn't see, whatever. But still, that was a correct and definite call. And then you got Zay Flowers, and I understand he's a rookie, and I'm going to say it again after I start complaining about what he did. But you're a great rookie receiver. You're one of the big reasons that the Ravens were so good this year, because you gave Lamar an actual passing option other than Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Yes, you're very good. You catch a bomb downfield. That thing was like a 50-yard pass. You catch it, but then what do you do after? You shove the guy off your leg. You stand over him. You spin the ball, and you get called for taunting. Because that's the definition of taunting in the NFL. You can't stand over the receiver. You can't spin the ball on his face. You can't do that. You can't do that. So instead of being on the 10-yard line, you're backed up to the 25. And thank goodness that you make it back to the goal line. Who do they go to for the potential touchdown pass? They go back to Flowers. He gets the pass, and he reaches over with the ball, and it's punched out. You lose the ball at the goal line. It's recovered by the defense. Touchback. Chiefs on the 20. Did you not see the Chiefs do that same thing in their previous game against the Bills? Did you not see Mecole Hardman do that same thing in what could have potentially iced the game for them? It was just last week. What are you reaching the ball over for? That's the one rule that benefits the defense. That's the one thing you should not do. That play was a first down. You would have had 3 more chances at the 1-yard line to punch it in with your massive, massive O-line and run game. But you wanted the touchdown and you wanted to reach for it, and it gets punched out. And then on top of all of that, you're understandably upset on the sideline. You cut your hand from slamming it on the bench? From slamming your helmet, you start cutting your hand? Can't have that. Can't do that. Shouldn't do that. It's a lesson that he'll remember as a rookie. It's a lesson he'll remember not to do again, and it's going to be a big maturing moment for Zay Flowers. But, dude, that was bad. As good as you were, you potentially cost them the game. So other than that, some other random notes that I have for this game before we get to Golden Grizzlies. Lamar is fantastic. I mentioned a couple plays before. He threw off to the defender, made a good play, caught his own batted pass. I mean, the dude is spectacular. Kyle Hamilton is also spectacular. There was a drive where he made all 3 tackles, all 3 big plays for what I think it was a 3-and-out for the Chiefs. Hamilton is an amazing player. I was really astonished seeing him. And then my final note, I don't understand how Kelsey and Mahomes still do it. I don't understand it. These passes shouldn't work. They're ducks in the middle of the field. Somehow they don't get picked off. I don't understand that. They're historic. And yeah, if they're historic like that, yeah, usually you don't know how it gets done. I just couldn't believe that it kept getting away with it. And I'm curious to see when Kelsey retires, because Mahomes is still going to be playing after Kelsey. I'm curious to see if those bad habits potentially developed with that relationship. I'm curious to see if those bite him after Kelsey retires. Not saying that he can't still be good after Kelsey, but that's going to be a big question. Because some of those passes looked awful, but because they were to Kelsey, they worked. So, all in all, we have the worst Super Bowl matchup that we could have asked for. We got Taylor Swift versus Brock Purdy. We have the worst color scheme Super Bowl imaginable. 2 red and yellow teams. The aesthetics are terrible. A purple and a blue, that would have looked sweet. A red and a blue, that would have looked sweet. But no, let's get red and red. Colors aside, I didn't want either of these teams getting in. I didn't want the Chiefs to get in because I just am so upset that they got away with being terrible this year and still made it to the Super Bowl. Like, can you please just be a regular team, please? And watch, I'm going to start putting asterisks on this. In the playoffs, you played the Dolphins in your house in a blizzard or in negative 40 degrees. You played the Bills who don't know how to win a game, who purposely would lose the game because of a Damar Hamlin fake punt. So, a team that was frozen solid, a team that with no brains, and you get the number 1 seed with a bunch of penalties at home. Self-inflicted penalties. But dude, this Chiefs team blows. And I'm so frustrated that they still made it. So, yay for the Super Bowl. Hooray. We get a matchup we saw 3 years ago. Yay. After this break, we'll be coming back with your Golden Grizzlies sports update. We got basketball, men's and women's, and we got swim and dive. We're going to get through it quickly here on the GioMoShow, 88.3 FM, WXOU. And we're back here on the GioMoShow. Final segment. It's Golden Grizzlies sports, basketball, and swim and dive, and we got to get through it pretty quick, so bear with me. Men's basketball had a trip to Wisconsin this past weekend, starting Thursday at Green Bay and Saturday at Milwaukee. First game against Green Bay was close and back and forth throughout the game, but it was a moment in the second half, about 6 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the game in the second half. Teams were tied at 50, and Green Bay went on an 11-0 run. And that's what ended up winning the game. It was close throughout. Campy blames himself partially because he went to man-to-man during the game instead of the zone. And he doesn't regret the decision to go to man in the moment, but he regrets keeping them in man for so long. And, they got a Grizz vision about that one, so go check out Golden Grizzlies on YouTube after the show here. Get Campy's thoughts on it. And the Campy radio show will be tonight at 6 o'clock. So you could get some more thoughts on that as well. But Oakland Falls final score is 69-59 to the new Green Bay Phoenix. Those guys have really turned it around in 1 year. Shout out to them. So Oakland has beaten them at home and lost to them away. Split with the team that is now above and beyond in the Horizon League. Green Bay's number 1. They follow that up with a double overtime win against Milwaukee. This one was insane. I didn't get to watch it the whole way through, but I caught the last 3 minutes of the double overtime and got a good sense of the game. This game was incredible. Now, our sports director, Harsh Brutar, he has mixed feelings about the game, justified ones, but because he wants the game a little bit closer, so be sure to tune in to find his show, Detroit Rant Radio. I'm sure he'll talk about it one of these days. But either way, here's my perspective. This is the GioMoShow. We're talking about me. We're talking about my perspective here. So the way the game went is Oakland came out, with a big lead very early. 10-2 was the start of the game with about 17 minutes in the first quarter. I mean, very early, 10-2 lead. But then Milwaukee got control back, then reversing it, going up by 11 with 4 minutes left before halftime. Oakland would punch back, as this game was one where haymakers were going back and forth. Oakland returned the punch to get a 1-point lead going into halftime with a Jack Golke three-pointer. That will be a theme throughout the game. He sends it into overtime. Oakland with a 1-point lead. Score is 38-37. In the second half, Oakland will maintain their lead of about 6, 7, even 8 points throughout the second half. But Milwaukee would have the game tied 60-60 with 6 minutes and 47 left in regulation. At the 30-second mark in regulation, Milwaukee is up by 3, 68-65, 36 seconds left. Oakland has the ball. Who takes the shot for 3? None other than Jack Golke. He sinks it with mere seconds left on the clock, ties the game, and that's what will end up sending it into overtime. Baru would end up securing the rebound to make that certain. So not only did Golke get the last second 3-point shot to get the lead going into halftime, he got the tie game to go into overtime. And then in overtime, let's fast forward all the way to 36 seconds left in overtime. Similar situation. Milwaukee's up by 3, 36 seconds left. Oakland needs a 3 to continue. Who sinks the three-pointer? Jack Golke again to continue the game in overtime. 2 times in this game with 36 seconds left. Milwaukee up by 3. Golke takes a shot and sinks it and continues the game. Incredible. And then in double overtime, Golke would go 3 of 3 from the line and make another three-pointer himself. DQ and Blake Lamon would make 3s. Townsend would make a couple in the paint and get some free throws as well. Baru would get a block and a rebound, and Oakland goes off into the sunset, becoming the first team to win in Wisconsin this season in the Horizon League and win 91-87 over the Milwaukee Panthers. Incredible game. And I got to speed it up. We're running low on time. Highlight scores. Golke was 8 of 18 from the 3. Made all 3 of his free throws, 27 points. Townsend, double-double, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 13 of 14 from the free throw line. And then Blake Lamon, 17 points, 5 of 14 from the line, from the 3-point from the arc, and then 2 of 2 from the line. And Baru had 17 rebounds, 7 offensive, 8 points, 5 blocks, and a steal. Baru, in the 35 minutes he played, most of the season so far, he's big time. So now Oakland is at 3rd place in the Horizon League, 8-3, 13-9 overall, and they will be playing Cleveland State coming up later this week. I believe that game, yes, that will be this Thursday, February 1st. Or excuse me, that's incorrect. This Thursday, February 1st, 7 p.m., they will be playing Robert Morris. You can hear that game here on WXOU. Once again, Thursday, 7 p.m. against Robert Morris. They will play Cleveland State Saturday, the 3rd, against Cleveland State, also here on WXOU. All right, so we got to blitz through the women's basketball segment. Forgive me for it. But the first game of the week was on Thursday against Cleveland State. It was a game I attended. And listen, Cleveland State's really good. Cleveland State's really good. Oakland had a big lead early in the game. They were up by 7 in the first half. And they would even keep the lead going into halftime. It hovered around 5 or 6, and then Cleveland State had a last-second stretch, or had a stretch in the last seconds to get the lead down to 2 going into halftime. Oakland was up 34-32 going into halftime. And then coming out of halftime, Cleveland State opened a can of you-know-what, finished the third quarter up 15, and ended the game up 12. Final score 77-65. Cleveland State gets the best of the Golden Grizzlies. But then the Golden Grizzlies travel on the road Sunday at IUPUI, where they beat the Jaguars 65-59. Maddie Skorupski, team high 13 points, 3 of 8 from the field, but 7 of 8 from the free throw line. 5 rebounds, and assists, a block, 2 steals on top of it as well. Makai McCormick, 12 points, 4 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 from the line. And then Brooke Quarles-Daniels, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 of 11 from the floor. So they get a win on the road against the Jaguars and are now sitting at 7th place in the Horizon League, 5-6 in league play, and 9-10 overall. And then for the final segment of the GioMoShow, swim and dive, and we also got D3 Club Hockey. Surprise, surprise. Surprise because I forgot to mention it. But swim and dive, they traveled to Cleveland State for their last meet of the regular season before the Horizon League Championships arrive here on Valentine's Day. At Cleveland State, the women's team beat the Vikings 193-105, and the men 195-99. So that's a win for both swim and dive teams for the Golden Grizzlies. As mentioned, they will be traveling to Indiana for the Horizon League Championship meet starting on Valentine's Day. And what day is that? That's a Thursday? That's a Wednesday. From Wednesday to Saturday, they will be competing for a 40-plus something consecutive win for the men and a 27 maybe plus streak for the women. They've been winning conference championships since before I was born. So that does not look like to be slowing down, even without their legendary head coach under the now promoted assistant, Mitch Alters. I see the Golden Grizzlies continuing that legacy of championships in the conference. Moving on now to our last segment of the GioMoShow, Club Sports. And we got D3 Hockey. We missed this in the last show, but the rankings came out as of January 19th for the ACHA, the American Collegiate Hockey Association. January 19th, the rankings came out. Oakland drops to 12th place in the country. Previously, they were up as high as 6th. We covered their games last week against Central Michigan. We have an interview with Brandon Danu, who scored his 50th goal against the Chippewas last week. So be sure to go to WXOU Sports' YouTube channel. Check that one out. It's one of our biggest videos that we have on the channel. So thank you to D3 Club Hockey. Thank you to the fan base. You guys roll hard. You guys go hard in the paint. And now in the future, the Golden Grizzlies will be playing University of Michigan, current ranked 13th, just underneath the Golden Grizzlies. They'll be playing at Michigan this Friday the 2nd, and they will be returning. That can't be right. This one also says Friday the 2nd, but we'll given the usual schedule, Friday the 2nd they'll be at U of M, and then they will be hosting U of M the next day, Saturday the 3rd. They'll be at the Birmingham Ice Arena. Tickets are free for students to attend and watch their D3 Club Hockey if you're in the Birmingham Ice Arena area. And you can find more information on their website, It's a long one, but just search Oakland D3 Hockey. You'll find it. They got great game summaries, game previews, stats, everything you need to get to know your D3 club hockey. Friend of the GioMoShow and friend of WXOU. So, with that being said, we got through a lot this show here on the GioMoShow. It was a little bit unorthodox in the organization of the show, but we thank you for tuning in and we thank you for following along. And if you missed it, don't worry if you're just tuning in now. Don't worry. We'll have this whole thing uploaded on YouTube and Spotify by later today, so there's no way to miss the GioMoShow. You can find it Monday evening up on YouTube and on Spotify. So, from the GioMoShow, from Giovanni Moscieri here at WXOU, this has been the GioMoShow. We'll be back here same place, same time, Mondays at noon on WXOU.